The Secrets of Stargate is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
You're listening to The Secrets of Stargate, Episode 70.
Lieutenant West, Jackson has identified the seventh symbol.
All right, here we go. We are about to try to make a connection.
All we gotta do is bust out of here, commandeer the ship, and fly on home.
Indeed. You say that a lot.
I know that this could be dangerous. But this is our job, right? It's what we signed on to do.
It was never about going home. It's about getting us to where we're going.
Hello and welcome to The Secrets of Stargate, where we talk about hidden meanings and deeper layers found in the Stargate movies and series, including SG-1, Atlantis, Universe, and more. I'm Father Cory Sticha. With me today are Lisa Jones and Victor Lambs. Howdy, Lisa.
Hey, Father Cory.
Howdy, Victor.
How do you do, Father Cory?
You know, as Dom said a couple weeks ago, Jack Barazini had an unexpected personal issue and had to take some leave from the SGC. Until he is able to return, I've been placed in temporary command of the team. Please keep Jack in your prayers, and hopefully he can join us again someday soon. Before we begin, I'd like to invite you to go to sqpn.com/merch to get your t-shirts, mugs, stickers, and much more, including a collection with my face on it for some strange reason. I don't know why you'd want that. At least it wasn't with a picture. It might break the camera. Anyways, today we are discussing Window of Opportunity, the 6th episode from the 4th season of Stargate SG-1. SG-1 is on P4X-639, a former ancient colony, allowing both Sam and Daniel to explore their particular geekeries. Sam is exploring an geomagnetic storm caused by a coronal mass ejection. Daniel is studying the ancient writings surrounding a red marble altar with the help of an alien archaeologist, Malachi. However, Malachi's intentions aren't so pure, and the altar is a time loop device that creates a space-time bubble. Malachi activates the device, hoping to go back in time far enough to be with his late wife again. Suddenly, Jack is in the cafeteria 10 hours earlier with Sam and Daniel. Only Jack and Teal'c remember that they're caught in a time loop, and so have to convince General Hammond and the rest of the SGC team. Eventually, after 3 months worth of 10-hour loops, that's a lot of loops, Jack and Teal'c are able to figure out what happened and how to stop it, while also finding time for things they've always wanted to do, like go through the Stargate and, in capital letters, the kiss. On the final loop, Jack is able to convince Malachi by admitting how much Jack misses his own son. The time loop device is shut down and time is allowed to continue normally. The end. So, what do you guys think, Lisa? What do you think of this episode?
What do you say about one of the most fan favorite episodes ever of Stargate?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like there's, how can we do it justice? Because it is, everybody knows this episode. So, yeah, I mean, it is a favorite of mine, not just for the kiss and not just for all of the loopy fun, but because it also packs an emotional punch. Mm-hmm. And it just, whether you want to watch it for the fun or for that, it encapsulates what Stargate is for me.
Sure, absolutely. How about you, Victor?
Worst episode. I can't even. No,
can't even do it. Yeah.
No.
Good try.
Yeah, this is obviously one of the, shows up in every top 10, top 5, top 1 lists, and it's for a good reason. I came into this watching it now for probably the 6th or 7th time, and I was okay. It can't be that good, right? I mean, we've seen a lot of really good Stargate, and I was trying to say, okay, where does it fall apart? And yeah, the Groundhog Day thing has been done. It hadn't really been done to death by the time they did this episode. And all I could find was like more things that I didn't notice the first 5 times around. And we'll get into some of those as well, but like little things happening in the background. And yeah, there's so many layers here that even if you've seen it and you said, yeah, that's a pretty good episode, like watch it again and again, because there are things that you have missed.
Oh, absolutely. And it's, you could tell they had a lot of fun with this episode, doing the time loops, doing the different reactions, the different things, like how much fun was that to, for Christopher Judge to shove the guy back in the door, the one time, things like that, just all these little things they did. And then the look on Jack's face when Daniel says, so did you ever think about doing anything because there's no consequences? And he kind of gets a look on his face like, why didn't I think of that?
Mm-hmm.
It is so much fun. It is a great episode. So I agree with you both. This really is one of my favorites, if not my absolute favorite. And I did a whole lot of research for this. A whole 5 minutes of Google searching on top Stargate SG-1 episodes, and almost every one of those lists puts it at the top. And if it's not at the top, it's absolutely top 5. There's just no way it's not. And in fact, later on, I'll talk about how our listeners can tell us what you think is your favorite episodes. We'll talk about that at the end. But so, this is absolutely a very popular episode, and it's with good reason. It's a lot of fun. It's quotable. It's so many great scenes and everything. And I got to start with the first one because I think it's so fitting is Jack. The first thing you see as he starts to loop is him with his spoonful of Fruit Loops. I mean, isn't that the most fitting for this episode?
Super glued onto the spoon so that between takes they wouldn't fall off or change at all, which is something I didn't really appreciate. But then as I started digging into this episode, I was like, oh yeah, and you start to deconstruct like how would they have filmed this? Would they have filmed all the Fruit Loop scenes at once and stuff? So yeah, he doesn't even like Fruit Loops, right?
But what's funny? I'll admit this might make me silly, but I didn't even put it together. Loop. Like lots of loops and eating Fruit Loops. Like I didn't even get that until this time around.
Fruit Loops as in time loop, but also fruit as in going fruity, batty, crazy. Yeah.
No, I just thought it was a random because O'Neill is so. It seems fitting that he would eat a children's cereal to me. So that I guess I always went with that one.
Yeah. Well, he got sick of it because he ate it, every 10 hours for 3 months basically. So
at least.
That's why he wanted the oatmeal at the end, but it was one of those nice little details they put in there, and I'm surprised there wasn't one scene where he throws the spoon, but he still he drops it, he just whatever, he just sits there holding it, staring at
right.
He's a professional throughout. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, the very first thing that strikes me about this episode is like how much they've invested in the off-world set.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, it's just the one location. You have the gate, you have the hall of like, lenses or whatever that focus the beams. And then you have the center console for the time machine, but it looks really good. They have the matte paintings and then even the center console. I don't know if it's some poor guy underneath the, console pushing up and down the panels and stuff, but it looks really, if they had skimped on the the P4X639 set in any way, like it wouldn't have worked. But the fact that they've invested, that this is an actual device, it actually works. And how cool is it when we see like an alien archaeologist as well?
Yeah.
And that's what we get in Malachi. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we get to see that altar later. I think they reuse that prop.
Oh, for one of Merlin's things, probably.
Yeah, I think so. I think it gets reused. I seem to recall the moving panels and all that stuff, seeing in different episodes. But yeah, but the funny part is, with the exception of the 3 scenes on 639, it's a bottle episode.
Mm-hmm.
It
really is. Yeah,
it's all taking place within SGC, except the scenes on that one prop, which was probably like the next set. Or the next studio over they borrowed for, a couple of days to film those scenes.
Yeah. And I read that it filmed very quickly because they just, like you said, the Fruit Loops, they did cut them. They did film them all at the same time. So they got to go home early every day.
That's nice.
Yeah. Because there's parts they could do over and over. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the funniest bits, and I didn't pick up on this before, but like, Teal'c and the thermometer.
Oh yeah,
it's just happening in the background, and like you just watch it. Like the nurse will put a thermometer in his mouth, he'll take it out, she'll put another thermometer in his mouth, and you watch this play out over the different loops and how annoyed Teal'c gets with this thermometer that's and like maybe I noticed that the first 5 times, but like once you see it, it's just like this is like really good,
and I mean
like acting and directing going on there.
And his facial expressions throughout it are just priceless because he's got this thing and he sees it coming and he's looking at it as they're sticking it in his mouth, just like, you're not doing this again. Right. Of course you're doing it again.
Right. He doesn't, if you think about the time frame, I mean, he doesn't get as near as much screen time or lines or anything of that as Richard Dean Anderson, but he makes the impact because of what he does in the little bits of time he gets, like the thermometer.
Yeah.
And the shoving the guy with the door.
Or the tape recorder, because we kind of dumbed Jack down a little bit in this episode. We kind of make him a little bit more of a homer here. He doesn't know what a coronal mass ejection is, despite the fact that he's like an amateur astronomer and stuff. Mm-hmm. But as they're looping, obviously they reset every 10 hours. So everything that's been, somehow Jack and Teal'c's consciousness transfer over, but everything else. And so Jack has the great idea at one point to like record the conversations he's having with Daniel Jackson. And as he said, as he proudly announces to Daniel, "Nope, I made a recording of this." You could just see Teal'c look at him like, "Oh, this is going to go well." And then as the tape is completely blank, he's like, "Did I not say your plan would be unsuccessful?" He's like, "Careful.
Yeah.
What about indelible ink?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So Christopher Judge playing an excellent straight man in this episode, and then Michael Shanks as well. As they're looping, and not just when they're doing the translation, but even when they're in the briefing room, and Jack's like, "No, we've done this before," and Michael Shanks is like, we brief every morning. Or Sam is like, "Well, maybe he read my report," and he's like,
"Oh, I love that."
He read, yeah.
He read your report.
Maybe he read your report. Yeah. So
total
everybody is just on for this episode, and playing their parts perfectly. Dr. Fraser, General Hammond. There's not a lot that slows this episode down. Previously we would have had like 20 minutes of like, well, you need to go through an MRI machine to see why your brain thinks this, but. They even like hang a lantern on that when she keeps shining a flashlight in his eye. Right. Yeah. What in my eye could cause this?
Right. Even the scenes where they have Carter and Hammond do the exposition, right?
Yep.
They're walking down the halls and they're kind of catching the viewer up as to what's happening. Even those super quick. Mm-hmm. You don't just sit there and go, "Wow, why? Oh, this again." It works. The whole thing. They did it really tight and really well.
Well, and then the whole translation sequence, where Teal'c and Jack are learning both Latin and ancient, because Latin is based on ancient language.
Juggling.
And juggling.
Yeah.
And it's not like they're sitting there belaboring it. They're, Daniel's teaching them and they're kind of following along. And all of a sudden now they're teaching Daniel and they're correcting Daniel and they're correcting each other. And,
and none of that has any.
So gentlemanly, right?
Yeah.
Like, "Oh no, but this." Yeah.
Yeah.
And then none of that has any payoff in the resolution of the episode either. Do you notice that? Like all they're learning Latin and stuff.
Well, and they did learn.
It doesn't stick.
They actually, it did pay off, because that was how Jack was able to tell Malachi. Yeah. The ancients couldn't figure this out. They stopped using it. They shut it down because they couldn't figure out how to do it. So
that's true.
It did pay off. It's just, it still was a lot of work. And of course, like a lot of things in SG-1, we don't hear Jack speaking ancient ever again.
Yep. Or Latin.
Yeah. But we do get a couple of references back to the fifth race when Jackson is first talking to Malachi and saying like, "Oh, this is a derivative of Earth Latin. I had an opportunity to hear it spoken a year ago." And then they specifically call out, "This is when you were connected to the ancient device."
Jack says, "This sounds familiar." Yeah, you probably remember it from speaking it,
Yeah. You spoke it. So if you think about it, they took a problem that needs to be solved through science and translation work, and then they picked like the two people who are at least qualified to do it on the team.
Yeah.
And paired them up, which I think was kind of genius to make it work.
Yeah. Well, and they even call that. It's like, there was the one loop where I think it was Daniel basically pointed out, he used these terms and he used them more or less correctly.
Oh, yeah, correctly. Yeah,
more or less.
Right. Magnets.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very quotable episode. I did see an interview with Joseph Malazzi, and he was one of the writers of this episode.
Was this his first episode with Paul Mully, or?
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, right out the gate, yeah.
Yeah, but he was funny because it was actually an interview, and he was talking about they pitched it. When they pitched it, it was serious and it was dark.
Oh man.
Yeah, could you imagine? And then it got, and
then Peter DeLuise got a hold of it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, what about this? What if we do this? And they did say that the clips, like of him doing pottery and riding his bike and golf and all of that, was added at the end. That the episode was short.
Oh, sure.
And so I did read something else that said since they pretty much started Stargate, they've been trying to figure out a way to get someone to golf through the Stargate. So.
Apparently, Christopher Judge is a very good golfer, and Richard Dean Anderson not so much.
Oh,
I actually read that they had to do several takes, and this is just what I read. Richard Dean Anderson couldn't get the golf, and I relate because I've been golfing once and it did not go well. They actually had to CG his shot to the golf ball.
Oh, that's
hit
funny.
The gate and stuff.
I can't say much. I've golfed more than once, and I'm more likely to hit it under the ramp instead of through the Stargate. So I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
But they did. Their outfits were awesome.
Oh yeah.
So, however they hit the ball, they looked good doing it.
Yeah. I wondered which of them was the golfer, because that had to be the idea of, hey, we need some other filler. They're sitting there trying to brainstorm what other filler. And I guess, Christopher Judge would be like, well, I like to golf.
Yeah.
That works.
I just like the idea of some Scottish civilization going through the Stargate and interacting with the Jaffa and teaching them all golf. It's my headcanon for that.
Jafar, Creed.
Hey, laddie.
I'm watching him ride his bike through the SGC, and I'm thinking that might not actually be a bad thing, because it's a big complex. Yeah. Get around quickly, not so bad. But the little bell, the bicycle bell, that was good.
And another thing I had to have pointed out to me by, thank you, Internet, after watching this even 5 times, is so throughout the series, we've seen different intros. Even in the same season, they'll have different, credit sequences. Mm-hmm. And already this season, we've had a couple different ones. We've had the fiberglass raw head that they used in the movie. But this one, we get the more traditional one, which starts with a shot of Jack's eye, and then it pans away in a certain way. And, and then it starts, his eye turns into the vortex, I think. Yeah. And so you'll notice that when they're in sick bay and Dr. Frazier shines the light in his eye, the camera pans away at the exact same angle.
Yep.
To show Teal'c and everybody behind him. Yeah. And so it's a callback to the I did not notice that until the internet pointed it out to me.
That may be one of those differences of how you watch it, because I've got the DVDs, and this has been the movie intro throughout the entire season, with the green letters, no Stargate, nothing like that. This has just been the raw sarcophagus throughout the season. So it might depend on how you watch it, if you're watching it streaming versus DVD, whatever. So, and it'd be kind of interesting why they chose to do that.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm no help because I always hit skip intro.
Oh, I got to hear the music. I
know.
Which has
Lisa.
lyrics, by the way.
Oh no, we'll get back to the
No. No, in the DVD commentary for this episode, I believe Malazzi and Mully actually give the lyrics for the theme song. They sing it while it plays and stuff.
Oh, that's funny.
A hoot.
Yep.
They whistle it in an elevator.
No. But the ending,
that's in a couple seasons.
The ending part where it goes da da, that part goes, watch out for that gould. That kind of gives you. That kind of gives you an idea.
Bored when they did that.
Well, wow. You have to watch the DVD commentary.
It's one of those 2 a.m. in the morning things, right?
Yeah.
We should put lyrics to this.
So now, Lisa, when you're talking about Malzani writing this, you forgot to mention he also wrote another thing
Oh, he
wrote
did,
the
yes.
Latin text
Oh, that's
that
right.
they used. Of course, that's probably one of the more famous Easter eggs of this episode because they show right on. I mean, it's like the full screen is the front of the book, but still. Yeah,
Right.
it was
Throw away your
Joseph
Wheelock's,
Malzani, PhD, was the author of the
Intro to Latin or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Throw away your Wheelock's Latin grammar intro to Latin students and pick up
The
your
interview
Malazzi.
said that was Peter DeLuise.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Who's in this
That was
episode as
him.
well?
He was, but I had to look it up. I didn't know.
Yeah,
I
when
didn't notice him.
when Siler pancakes Daniel Jackson a couple of times.
Oh yeah.
I just love Jack going like, "Oh, I should have seen that coming."
Yeah. And well, the first time is I should have seen that coming. The second times was, oops.
Yeah.
Of course, that's one that they changed really quickly. I wonder if Michael Shanks was like, "You're only getting to knock me down twice," and that's it.
That's it. Write that in my contract.
Yeah. So it is interesting though. You know, you talk about the doing things without consequences. You know, Star Trek would have never done that. You know, you look at the time loop episodes in Star Trek and never. Now you had the Harry Mudd one with Discovery, which was a lot of fun, but that was because that's who he is. He's the one who does nothing, you know, does anything without consequences, so he thinks. But you know, you look at the one with the USS Bozeman with Fraser, Dr. Fraser Crane in command.
Yeah.
You know, where there was no we got this opportunity to have some fun. Oh no, it's like we got to fix this problem as quickly as possible so we can get back to the rest of the universe.
And time becomes a loop. And time becomes a loop. Yeah.
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 Yes.
We can't have fun.
Yeah, I think we should talk about too, like, so I don't know if Groundhog Day was like the first bit of fiction to do this. Probably not, but it was definitely the most popular. And they even like make a reference to, at the end when Jack confronts Malachi and says, like, why are you doing this? So you can be king of Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Which, yeah. So, but I mean, since this episode, there's been like the Tom Cruise movie, Live, Die, Repeat, or Edge of Tomorrow, whichever name, where it's very much aligned to this. Every time Tom Cruise dies, he restarts a loop at the beginning of the day.
Mm-hmm.
There was an episode of Supernatural, Mystery Spot, where they did the same thing. I think there was, I don't know, some other movie, but yeah, so it's been done a lot, but even so, knowing what's kind of been done afterwards, this was still a very enjoyable episode to watch just because, of the way they handle it.
Yeah. And by the way, Cause and Effect, which was the TNG episode with the time loop, that came out in 1992. Groundhog Day was 1993. So.
Okay.
So they're kind of both being produced at about the same time, but it is an old idea of how time's looping and time effects of time and things like that. That's something that's very popular in science fiction.
Yeah.
Watch that first step. It's a doozy.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that makes it work is it is quick.
Mm-hmm.
It's not long and drawn. Like I think Groundhog Day, it was a whole day. It started with him waking up in the morning and going to bed or whatever. And this, it's 10 hours, but even then, the way they shoot it and film it, it's very tight. It's very quick. You don't go, man, do we really have to learn all this Latin?
Yeah.
They just pick it up, and so you don't realize how long it's been until the very end.
Yeah, and they say that the Tok'ra has been trying to get hold of Earth for 3 months. And they don't know how long before that. Yeah. And again, that's where I kind of made the comment of that's a lot of loops. You figure 10-hour loops for 3 months.
I think I saw someone on the internet did math, and it said 216 loops at least.
At least.
Of course, I'm kind of impressed that they picked up Latin and ancient language that fast.
Well, they had nothing better to do.
Well, and this is, obviously you don't want to dig too much into this, but like, are their bodies aging like with every loop, or are they now like almost a year older, or is it just their consciousness that loops, right? So if they kept eating donuts for all loops, would they eventually get fat? Like Bill Murray didn't have to worry about that, but
well, and here's
maybe that's why he's riding the bike.
Yeah,
it was his exercise.
Oh, there you go.
Well, and that's the simple question is, did they get tired?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't seem to.
No, and that's so it would be that, their consciousness or their bot, or what, they transferred back and forth, as the time loops went. But it would seem like it wasn't something that kept, adding on, like they remembered it because they kept traveling back in time instead of just, like you said, having their consciences transfer or whatever.
Mm-hmm. But the mental fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like that. Of course, who doesn't love the picture of Jack with the plate with the ketchup and the mustard?
Yeah, oh yeah.
3 bites short of a Happy Meal. Yeah.
So yeah. So 200 loops times 10 hours. That's like a whole work year. Like 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for 40.
Okay, when you say it that way.
But did not stop.
Weeks. Yeah. Yeah. They need more than just one loop off, I think. But yeah.
Yeah.
I like that, the one where he just says, "Yeah, I'm taking this one off. I'm done."
Yeah, and then Teal'c sits down.
Mm-hmm.
You notice? Teal'c's all like, "What are you doing?" And then he's like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Taking a break.
I have read that Richard Anderson knew how to juggle. Like I think he worked as a mime or something in his youth. But I wondered if Christopher Judge looked so natural. Like, did he have to sit there and learn it? Or is that something they just realized they both could do? And so why don't we throw that in there?
I think he probably learned it, but I think he learned it quickly. That's my headcanon.
There you go.
I've tried. I
Junior
can't do
helped.
Yeah. I almost wanted to see them do like the back and forth, juggling back and forth though.
Oh yeah.
That would have been fun. Instead of having them both just saying they're juggling individually, but tossing one to each other back and forth. That'd been kind of
doing
funny.
it over Daniel, right? Like the whole bowling pin thing.
Yeah.
And Daniel's in the middle and there. That would have been awesome. Okay, so we're going to talk about the kiss now?
That's what I was wondering when you wanted to talk about it. Yes, we
can talk about it now.
That's going way beyond, Jack Sam's ship. I mean, that's
Yeah. It was funny because I think that's how the show does their ship, right? It's like alternate reality Sam Jack, mirror Sam Jack, and then now it's loop. So she doesn't
poorly dressed Jack, yes.
Yeah, what was up with that? The yellow shirt and
the Poochie out. Poochie out.
Yeah, I don't know why he chose the outfit he did, but he retired. He resigned from the military, so he was no longer her superior officer, and so he could get away with it. Even though, would he really have needed to?
No, but my guess is that has to do with the military oversight of the show. That if they were ever, because I have read that was one of the reasons they kept it all very on the fringes, besides not wanting to turn it into a soap opera, is that because he was her commanding officer, so they couldn't do it
right
and keep the military happy. So I'm assuming that resignation was for that reason. But that was, I have to say that was a big shock back in the day, was it not?
Oh yeah,
it was. Okay, hang on. And then the next episode is Watergate, like nothing happened. So,
the funny part is the episode before this was where he admitted that he had feelings for her and she admitted that she had feelings for him. And then they have this scene.
Right.
But I love it how he's sitting there. He's timing it 5, 4, 3, starts kissing her. It flashes over. And the next scene is just him smiling at her.
Yeah.
What?
And then the very end where, Daniel says, "Did you ever think of doing something with no consequences?" And he just stares. He eats oatmeal in a really weird way. And then he stares at Carter, and you're thinking, something else happened? Like, what did y'all not show us? Because it just seemed a little more intense than
just
I resigned and kissed you. Yeah. Which, spawned tons. I was on bulletin boards back in the day on the internet, and tons of speculation and fanfic, and people just went nuts.
I'm an originalist, so what's on the screen is what happened. Yeah. I mean, they show us the most important things, right? If something more important happened, they would have intimated that in some way.
Well, leave us to our headcanon.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure there's plenty of fanfic out there you could go find that will tell all about that loop where it happened.
I think I read that back in 2000.
Yeah.
Loop /
XXX.
Flash time, baby.
They give it to us, and then they quickly ignore it all. And then we get beneath the surface and they give it I think that's what keeps people coming back. It's like a little bit of give and take.
And a lot of times when they do give it is, or all the time, as you mentioned, it's things where something's different. Something's not normal, you know. They're brainwashed, or it's an alternate universe, or they're time looping, or, you know.
Yeah. So they give those fans who want the ship a little bit of candy, but it doesn't change the tone and tenor of the show forever. So I thumbs up. I love the way they handled it. So
yeah, no, it was pretty good. And, you know, and they do almost camp it up just a little bit, where he goes for the overly dramatic dip as he's kissing her. You know.
Yeah.
And his beanie and like snowboarding out. I don't know. Maybe it's a Colorado thing.
Maybe it was winter and he was on his way.
Or he could wear it because he could wear it.
That's true. Yeah.
So contrasting like all this fun and games is the character of Malachi.
Yes.
Who is the alien archaeologist. And very fascinating character because, you know, we meet him at different stages. He is also looping. And so he spent basically 200 loops on the planet trying to get this thing to work, right? So he doesn't get to play golf. He doesn't get to eat Fruit Loops. He's just trying to get this thing to work. And the reason he's doing it is so that he can see his wife again and hopefully, find a future with her where she doesn't die of a congenital heart defect.
Well, he's even saying it's not even that he wants her to not die. He says she's going to die. He wants the loop so that he can go see her.
Hear her speak one more time.
You know, and that's then where Jack makes a comment about, you know, I do know what you're going through because my son died and I do not want to go through that pain again.
Not just I don't want to. He said I couldn't.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. I could not live that again. And that scene, it's so quick. I mean, in the grand scheme of the episode, but it's so powerful. And it makes you ask yourself a lot of questions because you understand Malachi completely, why he would be so determined to do this. And then you see Jack's pain and, you know, everyone else is just kind of standing there in the background and the two of them make this connection and he's able to make Malachi realize that pain, you know, if it can't change it, could you really live through that again?
Yeah.
And
I think that's one
that's crazy with such a fun episode that you have this really heavy moment.
Well, I think that's another thing that makes this such a great episode is it's not one of those, you know, again, a Star Trek episode where they snap their fingers and all of a sudden the time loop is done. You know, Data realizes he needs to blow out the main shuttle bay, and so then they can move just enough so they don't hit. You know, no, it's
Bree referred to the number of pips on Riker's uniform, and that's how I knew that his suggestion was the best. It's like the worst resolution to a time loop ever.
Yeah, but this one there is that emotional grab, and it is a satisfying ending where you can see that Malachi is being convinced by Jack. It's not just just because you said it, I'm going to shut up. It's like, no, Jack made that connection and convinced him and did it well. I mean, that's probably some of the best writing of SG-1 right there.
Yeah.
Very good.
And it's completely in line with his character and his history. They didn't make something up to have that connection.
Right.
And a very good guest performance from Robin Mosley as well. I think this is like always listed. The episode's listed near the top, but his performance as Malachi is also listed near the top as well. You know, Canadian character actor. You know, Andromeda, Reaper, MacGyver, even Psych shows up, but you know, just in his few scenes is able to like bring a whole like degree of pathos to this that really sells the whole episode and grounds it in that kind of human element too. It's not just some weird scientific thing that's happening, and there's like an actual human being behind this who's hurting and you know, driving this whole thing.
I love that they gave him that reason for doing it.
Yeah, and I do like too, like, so he's stuck there doing these loops. The first time we see him, he has like basically a Star Trek style phaser that he uses to stun Daniel Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
When they come back 200 some odd loops later, he has like a Gould shield now. And
right.
So there's two explanations. He had this when he first came to the planet, or at some point in the 200 episodes, he took a loop to go someplace, but then how would he have it back? So he would need to do this every loop.
He would have had to have it coming into loop because it would have the same problem the recorder did.
Yeah, so he would have had to like every loop, like, okay, it's like 8:05. I got to go to the planet, trade the artifacts for the Gould shield or whatever, and come back
every time.
Yeah.
Or he already had it and he just had it hiding in his bag and Daniel Jackson didn't see it because he was being Daniel Jackson, was completely oblivious to the world around him. And, you better get going, Daniel. You better get back through the Stargate because otherwise it's going to, oh no, one more question. It's like, no, you really better get going. It's like, just go.
Take the hint.
Yeah.
And we get
Daniel's over there like, I'm another archaeologist. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And we get one of the best episode where like Jack is like, what kind of archaeologist carries a weapon? And Jack's like, I do.
Yeah.
I'm the one carrying the M5 and the P90s through the gate, right?
Oh, bad example.
Yeah, and that's another recurring thing. We get bad example at least 3 times, when Jack's in the briefing room and he says something obvious, a bad example when he's motioning to Teal'c, says, does this look like the face of a crazy man? Bad example. And then at the end, bad example is one of those comedy rule of threes thing that we get.
Yeah, I like the first one is, you're going to say, no, it's not. That's what you're going to say. Of course, that's what I'm going to say. Bad example.
Yeah.
And I like that Malachi, when we see him the second time, he acts like they're meeting for the first time. And you see Jack and Teal'c kind of go, is it just us? Like, it can't be just us. Maybe it's just us. Until he calls her Carter. Or Sam.
Yep.
I can't remember if he said Sam or Carter. Malachi did. And then they're like,
Carter or whatever, yeah.
How did you, see? And then he just drops the farce and goes for it. And so, again, I kind of like that are they crazy? Is it Malachi? Is it, who's involved in this? So it's not straightforward.
Yep, exactly.
So if you could do time loops, right? And you knew that every 10 hours things would reset and that there would be quote unquote no consequences to your actions. From a morality perspective, there would still be consequences to your actions because you were still
Yeah.
Again, this is, and it's one thing if the people, I would say that even the people that in the loop that weren't aware of the loop would still have the same issue, but especially for Jack and Teal'c, that, an immoral act would still be on their soul in the time loop because God's so far outside of time, even a time loop can't keep them from seeing it.
Yeah, I was explaining this to our 9-year-old, and I was saying even if you stole something from somebody and they didn't know that you had taken it, it's still wrong to take it because you've still stolen from them,
even if they're going to get it back in 5 minutes later. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they never miss it, right? So,
well, anything else you want to talk about this great episode? I know we could probably keep going for a while, but
there's a lot going on here, and it really bears further rewatching. But a lot of it depends on the time that you've invested with these characters as well. So it's I think it's a very good episode to show somebody who's new to the show, but at the same time, this whole time loop thing has been done a lot. And so no fault of the show, but a lot of the enjoyment comes out of your familiarity with the characters and the situation and how they're kind of playing with the conventions of the show. Anyway, that's just how I feel about it. What do you think?
Yeah, we never did get the answer to that. What he even asked. We don't even know what he asked.
But we use that in our house all the time. We just say that randomly. I did look up the foreign language titles to the episode.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So in English or American, it's a Window of Opportunity, right? French, they call it The Never Ending Story.
Oh.
Which, kind of like it. Italian, they called it Time Inversion.
That's a cool title.
Yeah. Spanish is Window of Opportunity. That's original. In Czech, it was called Time Loop. Very straightforward. I'm going to save German for last. Okay, Hungarian is a small opportunity. That was interesting. Polish was just loop. And German was no end in sight.
Oh, that's actually a cool.
Yeah.
For once, German has the cool one.
Yeah.
And something like Czech and Polish are the time loop. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what you thought the Germans were going to be this time, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, very, very good. As we mentioned, this episode, Window of Opportunity, is often ranked as a fan favorite episode, as an episode that fans constantly rank as a favorite. But we'd like to hear what you think about it. So, what do you think about it? That's we know you heard what we think about it. So, what do you think about it? So, we've created a poll of top Stargate SG-1 episodes. Again, from my whole 5 minutes of Google research and picking a top 10 list and adding a couple more episodes that we've reviewed already. And we'd like you to vote on which of those episodes or any other is your favorite. You'll be able to find the link by the time this episode comes out. You'll be able to find the link in the Secrets of Stargate channel on the StarQuest Discord server. And so to find that, you can get your invitation to join our Discord at sqpn.com/Discord. And again, you'll be able to find the poll on the Discord server at the Secrets of Stargate channel. And those of you who are patrons on Patreon, we will also post a link to the poll on our StarQuest Patreon page. And speaking of Patreon, we'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Stargate, including Matthew W., KH, Brendan, Matt T., and Dennis W. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Stargate and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. Be sure to follow the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, or other podcast apps. We're also on YouTube at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia. To find previous episodes of Secrets of Stargate and to send feedback, please visit sqpn.com/Stargate. Email us at stargate@sqpn.com or follow StarQuest on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia or on Twitter at SQPN. We'll be back next week when we'll be discussing Watergate, next episode of SG-1. Until then, Lisa Jones, thank you for joining me and sharing the Secrets of Stargate.
Thanks, Father Cory.
Victor Lambs, thank you as well.
Thanks, Father Cory. And hey, Vern, how's the wife?
And once again, I'm Father Cory Sticha. Thank you to listening to the Secrets of Stargate on StarQuest.
Anyway, I'm sorry, but that just happens to be how I feel about it. What do you think?